There are only 3 types of founder archetypes, and knowing which type you are is the key to either succeeding or failing in your business. I know this because I've had to use the same foundational archetype to evolve myself from 6 figures to 7 figures and beyond. And this is exactly what I've also discovered after working with over 200 founders. So with that being said, let's just dive straight into this. All right, we've got archetype number 1, which is the specialist. So here's a quick overview. The specialist founder, they're the masters of their craft. They have a huge focus on expertise and quality. So think about them as the craftsmen or women, and they usually start the business so they can do more of what they love. For them, happiness is simply getting to do that thing they're truly passionate about. And some of the core traits are they're skilled, they're very detail oriented, they can be perfectionistic, and they can be very emotional. But again, take it with a little grain of salt because these are going to be kind of generalized archetypes that I've seen across multiple businesses. Now, the specialist, the strength is definitely the deep expertise in a specific area. So think about it like it can be art, it could be a tech coder, it could be a designer, whatever it is, they have this expertise over a specific domain and they have exceptional ability to create unique products and services. So whatever they do, they have this strong focus on innovation, differentiation, and mastery. They need to be the master in their game, whatever they're doing. But this archetype also comes with weaknesses because they do struggle with scaling and managing operations because they got into business because they love this X, Y, and Z thing that they are so passionate about. And they figured out, oh, you know what? There is a way to align my passion with this business model that's going to allow me to make a living doing what I love. But this is where they struggle because they're not inherently built to kind of scale, manage a team, build systems and infrastructure. So they could also be resistant to growth for fear of losing quality. They're always like, oh, well, I need to keep my hand on this part of the business, which is product, because if we scale, I'm afraid that because the product is bottlenecked by my own capacity, it's not gonna be good because the quality is gonna get compromised. So oftentimes they have that mindset barrier towards actually growing and scaling and making more money. And they do sometimes also struggle to delegate and overworks as a result because they're trying to do everything themselves. Like for this person, the business model is how can they do the thing that they absolutely love and spend 80 to 90% of their time on that thing, yet still build a lean, efficient team that's taking care of a lot of things so they can focus on their zone of genius. The other archetype is going to be the operator. So this person is a master of execution, efficiency, scaling operation, right? This is the builder. Over here, this is kind of the doer, the expert, and this is kind of the builder and manager. They have to be very process driven, organized, systems focused, and clean thinker. They think in systems. It's like we've got a problem. It's showed up 2 or 3 times. How can we now create an efficient, predictable system around it so we don't have to keep struggling as a company? Like this thing has already been answered and future team members can just follow it. Some of their strengths are definitely efficiency and being detail oriented. Like I said, they think in systems. So they are kind of like the master of execution. Nothing is an unknown for them. They don't get frazzled under stress. They love solving problems and they have a strong ability to manage teams and optimize systems. And they do sometimes kind of work like a machine. And when I say work like a machine, I don't mean like they're just like workaholics. What I mean is they can churn out and crank out consistent, predictable results. And they just kind of go at things without ever kind of breaking down. They have a lot of leverage in terms of the systems they use, in terms of the teams they've built around them. Weaknesses can be sometimes they prioritize efficiency over creativity or innovation. They're kind of like, well, this is how we've always done, and I don't see a problem or a need to change how we've done things. Like things aren't breaking right now. So sometimes that clean thinking can also hurt them. And they do sometimes, struggle with long-term vision or strategy because these people, they're kind of builders, right? They're managers. So you have to understand that. And they see everything and everyone as numbers at times because their brain is so kind of calculated in terms of looking at systems. Everything is just another unit or another number to kind of move around. So sometimes they can be kind of cold and detached but not always. Some operators are emotionally kind of attached to the team. They have a lot of empathy, trust, and rapport that they build with the team. So again, take a lot of these things as a little grain of salt. And the final archetype that we have is the visionary. And this is the founder that everybody thinks they should be, right? This is kind of that big picture thinker where he or she is envisioning a future that most of us can't even fathom. And we're like, wait, what? What's going to happen? Why does this need to happen? But they do see where the stars are going to align, and they're trying to take us to that direction. So again, these are leaders who cast a big vision and inspire others to follow. They're never satisfied until vision has been accomplished. And the core traits are being future focused, charismatic, ambitious. They're bold. They are definitely a risk taker. They're the type of people that's like, let's go big or let's go home, right? And then the strength for them is they see a future that others can't even envision, which is amazing because they are the innovators. They create new products and services, and they inspire and motivate teams to work towards that future. They can also understand market trends and create future strategies. They just have that finger on the pulse. They can just truly understand, like, this is where the hockey puck is going, and we're going to go ahead and catch it where it's going rather than where it is currently. Weaknesses can be they could neglect operational details or bleed cash because this vision is so big and they are such bold risk takers. They might be willing to kind of bet on their business and say like, yeah, in the long term, we're going to catch up and we're going to start making a lot of money. But in the short term, as we start building the product and validating it, creating the prototypes, we are going to bleed a lot of cash, but that's totally fine. Or at least that's what they think, that's totally fine. Now, they do have high expectations, they are stubborn, and they want perfection in everything that they do because this is what the visionary is like. And they can treat team poorly if they don't have emotional mastery. Now, let's go into a little bit more about each of these archetypes. You see, for the specialist, as long as they get to do the thing that they love and make a sustainable living from it, they are happy. Like, that is their vision. For the operator founder, they kind of got into business sometimes for more of like a lifestyle business, right? They're like, okay, as long as I'm making a ton of profit, we've got healthy cash flow, and I get to enjoy every single day. Awesome. That's a success for me. And they're thinking about, okay, how can I create these teams, systems, and apply leverage so that I can really enjoy my life? Sometimes they do have the passion for what they are doing, but for them, mostly they are seeking balance. Now, for the visionary, on the other hand, for them, this is like a mission. It's a vision that they're chasing, and they're like, I need to build this world because there is going to be X, Y, and Z things that I see happening, and I'm willing to bet the entire farm, all my cash on this. And they are not happy until that vision has come to life, and they're going to relentlessly work towards it, and they're going to sacrifice a lot of things. And the funny thing is, at different times, I have been the specialist, then I had to evolve and become the operator as I scaled. And then as I scaled even further, I had to also become a visionary. And later on in this video, I'm going to kind of share with you what are the evolution stages that looks like. But for right now, let's kind of dive into a little bit more of the examples. For example, Leonardo da Vinci, he was a master specialist. His works were defined by creativity and attention to detail. His ability to innovate in art, science, and engineering was groundbreaking, but he often struggled to bring his ideas to large-scale fruition. Like, he had tons of ideas, right? And he had these notebooks that were filled with visionary designs for flying machines and engineering marvels, and many just remained concepts because he lacked that operational system and support to execute them at a large scale. And I would also say that he was maybe stretching himself a little too thin by chasing so many ideas at the same time. Like, yeah, you can do a lot of things, but you can't do everything all at once. So this can sometimes be the pitfall of the specialist. The most well-known type of operator is Henry Ford, because he's the guy that created the assembly line, the production lines that pretty much a lot of automobile companies now use up until this day, right? It's been evolved, it's been innovated upon, but he was the guy that first created that kind of revolutionary system. Even when the Model T was kind of declining in demand because the consumer's preferences changed, he didn't want to change. And as a result, Ford took a hit. Now, on the other hand, the most famous visionary that everybody thinks about is Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, thought about this iPhone, iPad, iPod innovations that most common humans would not even have thought about. But then he brought it to life, and every single detail had to be perfect. Even the inside of the machines had to be designed meticulously, because he's like, if somebody ever opens it up, I want it to look beautiful. So that's the level of kind of perfection you're sometimes dealing with as a visionary founder, and that's totally fine. The only thing that I would say is sometimes that can come across as being too stubborn, sometimes being a little too unrealistic, and applying resources where resources don't need to be applied, because in only a rare occurrence will somebody even look at it. So you have to keep that in mind as a visionary founder. Now, I've got some advice for each of these types. If you're the specialist, you should definitely focus on mastering the craft and being one of the best in the field, because what people are coming to you for is your craft, your specialty. What you do is truly unique, and you need to keep amplifying that, because in a way, you truly are the product, and there's only one of you. So you are kind of limited in terms of your capacity to produce. So that's why you want to make sure you're only producing the highest quality work and trying to charge the most you can, because your income is definitely going to be directly correlated with the number of units you yourself can produce. So there's definitely going to be a cap. And I would also say, see if you can productivize or systemize your offerings. At a first glance, you might be like, well, there's no way to kind of systemize this thing, and we might lose the special sauce that we have. But I guarantee you there's probably a way, if you really think about it. That way you can focus on the 20% of the effort that drives 80% of the special sauce, and then have somebody else on your team work on the rest. What I see this archetype, the specialist, struggle with is marketing, sales, operations, finances. Because again, they got into the business because they are amazing at this one particular thing, but they don't understand the other aspects that go into running a successful business. So for them, they can either learn or outsource. I would say if you can learn the aspects of marketing, sales, operations, finance, amazing. As long as that doesn't hinder and kill your ability to keep doing the thing that truly makes you special, keep doing it, learn it, master it. But if you're like really struggling, then I would say outsource it, right? But the biggest pitfall would be trying to scale without proper support or team structure, because it's just gonna make you hate the business and make you hate the thing that made you even get into business in the first place. And perfectionism can be a pitfall at times, because you really want to make sure everything is perfect. You might want to delay shipping because it's not perfect. And the truth is, it never will be, because as a specialist, you might always find a better way. So I like to think in terms of iteration, and over time, we're going to keep improving rather than this has to be the final kind of perfect product right now. What you're going to need is a strong operator or a coach or consultant to kind of help you out with this, because there's this part about marketing, sales, operations, finances, because without money, you can't keep this business going, and you need to have the skills or the support infrastructure to ensure you are getting money coming in. And sometimes you also need a visionary founder to shape the ideas and bring it to the world. The reason I say this is I know some incredible people. There's a tech coder. This guy is a super genius. Like, he coded up the equivalent of Upwork.com and made it in like 4 hours. And he's like, well, this entire platform can be better. And I see it like this and I see it like that. And it's crazy to think that somebody can code it up in just a couple of hours. And that's not the only thing. Like, he's coded up lots of other things that he can just like magically come up with on the spot. But the thing is, he is not a controlled fire. He's a chaotic fire. Here's what I mean. A controlled fire, it's kind of like a lighter or like a flamethrower, right? We aim it exactly where we want to. We turn it on. We crank up the intensity. We go at the goal that we really want. A chaotic fire is something that just starts burning things down, and it's not a good fire, right? So sometimes these specialists that doesn't have the vision or the system to keep them on a track can be their worst enemy. So keep that in mind. Now, if you are the specialist, you should be staying focused on your craft, become a true master. You have to become an innovator in your field. And then you have to also ensure you have others to shape ideas and help you make money, and embrace collaboration because your vision is better with a team. And you have to let go of tasks outside your expertise if you cannot master it. Sometimes it's easier said than done, right? Like I'm just going to outsource every single thing inside the business in terms of marketing and sales and all of this stuff. And yeah, if you have the profit margins for it, great. But if you don't, then you're kind of stuck. And so for them, it has to be like mastery, because once you have mastery, you can charge more, right? And once you can charge more, you have more profit. And once you have more profit, you can actually put it into a team. So the entire loop kind of begins right here. You have to be able to actually justify charging a lot of money. And the only way you can justify that is by being a true master and not just a commodity, right? Like think about an artist. I work with a lot of wedding photographers inside my business at Rapid Bookings. If one of them is a true master in the field of wedding photography, they can then justify charging a lot more because they are a true trend setter that the audience is seeking out for. But if they're just an excellent wedding photographer, but they are not like a master that everybody's seeking out, then they will hit a threshold in terms of what they can charge. And at that point, it becomes very hard to create more money, create more profit, and to build that healthy system and structure so they can keep doing the thing that they like. And the thing is, if you can ensure mastery, this becomes a positive feedback loop. If not, this is going to be your demise. Now, going towards the operator, you should definitely focus on building scalable systems for growth and profit and doing as little work as possible. See, here's the thing with work, what I mean by this is operators are amazing at solving problems. You see a problem and you're like, oh, I know exactly how to solve it. And that natural inclination is, let me jump right into the weeds and get this done. It's only going to take me 5 minutes, but then 5 minutes turns into 5 hours because you're so passionate about solving problems. You overlook and neglect a lot of things. And meanwhile, your team is lacking a leader and is wondering, well, what should I do? And sometimes the team becomes dependent on you. And they're like, well, boss man or boss woman is going to come in and solve everything for us. So let's just chill. We don't have to worry about this. So you don't want to start that kind of a culture or team dynamic. You should instead be focused on managing teams and optimizing every little detail. You need to be like Henry Ford, looking at the production line, the assembly line, and thinking about, well, is this truly optimized to the highest degree? Can we do a little bit better? Can we cut costs? Can we increase efficiency? What's going to happen if we do this, do that? And you are like a scientist, creating different hypotheses and trying to either validate it or disprove it. What you might struggle with is overcomplicating processes with too many steps or being way too rigid, right? Where this becomes a monotonous job for other people because you've stripped away all the, the human aspect of it. And especially if you have some specialists on your team, then they will start to hate that because it's just way too rigid. And it is truly like a factory production line. And some people might not resonate with that. And in doing so, you could be neglecting creativity or vision in team. So what I would say is allow ideas to surface. Be open enough to hear your team out. And it doesn't always have to be about efficiency. It can be something about innovation as well. And yeah, don't forget to innovate or gain fresh perspective regularly, because sometimes when you're in the weeds, always working on systems, you need to come up for some fresh air, get some fresh perspective and see the problem from a different lens, and maybe even have some inspiration that you hadn't had before, and it's allowing you to go in a whole new direction, which is unlocking a new level of scale and growth for the company. So the support you're going to need is to work with specialists because they build, you oversee, and manage. So here's the thing that I forgot to mention. You see right here, as we go from the specialist, operator, and visionary, you're actually going to need these 3 types of people on your team as well. Because right now, you could be, let's say, the visionary. That's what most people think of when they think of a founder. Or you could be the operator, or you could be the specialist, because the specialist is where everybody starts off. I started off my entrepreneurship journey as a specialist. I mastered one domain, then I added another domain. For me, it was marketing, then it was sales, Then I had to learn operations because I was like, well, I can't scale if it's just me and I'm hating my life doing everything by myself. What kind of business is this? This is just a glorified freelancer. Screw this. And then from there, as my vision grew, I had to become a visionary and allow somebody else to step in as the operator. So as you see this, right, there are 3 archetypes of founders, but these are also the 3 different hires you need to be making within your business. And you have to ensure that there's people fulfilling the shoes, roles, responsibilities of each archetype. So going back to the video, which is you have to be working with the specialists because these people are building the stuff because they could be marketing expert, right? They could be sales, they could be product. They have that expertise in those areas, and you're just making sure you oversee and shape them. And then the visionary is going to be giving you the direction and the strategy. This person, the operator, is going to need support staff like assistants or team leads as the business scales. And how you should operate is create clear workflows and hold a team accountable. Your job is not to really do the job. Your job is to ensure the team does the job well, how you've laid it out. And the team is also adapting and innovating over time. And you have to build this culture of perfect execution without killing creativity. It's a delicate balance, but once you master it, you're going to be amazing. And then the mindset tips for this type of founder is to stay open to innovation. Efficiency doesn't guarantee growth, and trust others to bring creativity and assets needed to grow, because you are really relying on these specialists over here to bring you that creativity and asset. And moving along to the visionary founder, pretty much the thing they should be focusing on is defining and communicating a clear vision for the future. Where the heck are we headed? And why are we headed that way? And then building a strong, loyal culture that motivates the team. Because sometimes when the vision is so far away, so distant, so grand, it can be scary to team members. So you need to pull them into your vision and ensure they're aligned with it, that they're also excited about it. And you have to be filling your cup up with fresh energy and innovation. You have to always be thinking, what's next? And you have to be a few steps ahead of the entire team. Now, what you might struggle with is don't mess with operations. You need people in your business, such as operators, whether they're the operator founder or just operator team leads, taking care of this, because you need to stay out of the weeds. The more you get into the weeds, the more your vision is going to be hindered. So I would also say don't overcommit to new ideas without proper resources, because the visionary at times can be like, well, we want to do this, we want to do that. And this is where you have to step in and say, well, this is all my ideas. Let's just prioritize them, create a roadmap, create it into a bite-sized milestone that's more achievable, then try to tackle all of this all at once. And please don't ignore feedback from specialists or operators on your team, because they're the front lines. They're seeing what's happening in the trenches. And the support system you're going to need is to work with specialists and operators. Your job is to point and they shoot. It's kind of a war analogy. You're the general, they're the front lines. Now, you have to be maintaining your own energy, expectations, and emotions, because sometimes you will get impatient. You will want perfection, and it can come across as very stubborn. So you're going to have to manage yourself really, really well, because if not, you could push the team a little too far where people start hating you. And I don't think it's always a good trait for the team to fear you. They should definitely respect you and admire you. But when it's kind of resentful and bitter and they're just fearing you, that they don't want to lose their job, like, yeah, that's when you've kind of pushed it a little too far. Steve Jobs, obviously, is a huge example of this. You could agree with me on this or you could disagree, but that's just my point. You definitely need to have trusted team members who will fight with you for the future, because it is a long journey and you cannot do it all by yourself. And how you should operate is regularly articulate the vision and inspire the team. You have to be letting them know, like, this is what we're working for. This is what we're working towards. And you need to be just focusing on the high impact decisions and stay out of the weeds. Your entire job is to make really good decisions. You basically just allocate the resources to what you know is going to be building that future. That's it. Your job is to think, and the rest of the people manage and do. And then mindset tips is stay grounded. Great ideas need time to execute and succeed, and trust your team. They are your army. You cannot win without them. And that's a very vital lesson. And then if we come back over here, this is the perfect way to bring this example to reality. You see, in an orchestra, this right here, the specialist, is the musician. He or she is a specialist in the violin or the piano, and you have to leave them to do what they are best at. But then we've got the conductor, who's the operator, right? He is ensuring everybody else is in sync. But then the most important kind of thing is here, this music that they are all playing was created by the visionary. So knowing who you are and what your role is currently is super important to really aligning yourself. And the funny thing is, oftentimes when I'm talking to different people and I'm thinking about it, well, is this founder a specialist? Is he or she an operator? Is he or she a visionary? When you start thinking from this mental model, you're going to very clearly see this is who they are. This is what they need to do to get to the next level. This is why they're stuck. He or she is still a specialist trying to hold on to everything, but deep down, they've got the vision for this grand business. It's never come to reality if they are just stuck in the weed, doing the thing that they love because it's not going to scale. And then sometimes you've got the visionary who doesn't have that specialist skill. Maybe that is coding, right? An amazing example of this is going to be Sam Ovens, founder of School. Well, he wasn't a coder. He was the visionary. He knew where he wanted to go, what kind of platform he wanted to create. Then he went out and actually hired coders and developers to build the product. And he also found the CTO who's going to act as almost like the operator, making sure the team of developers are on track. So that's again another modern day example. Now, the key for you, my friend, is going to be self-awareness, because founders often fail not because of a lack of skill or good ideas, but because they overextend themselves in areas outside of their strengths or refuse to acknowledge their weaknesses. I do think it is absolutely possible for people to evolve, for you to go from a specialist to an operator to a visionary. That's exactly what I've done. But sometimes it could also be that you're just not gonna make that leap. You are maybe just one archetype and that's kind of what you're stuck with. I am not sure. This is a pre-recorded video, so I cannot overgeneralize. I can only say that with certainty when I'm consulting clients. But you have to know who you are, what it feels right in your gut. Are you acting as a proper archetype, whether it's the specialist or the operator or the visionary? It doesn't matter, but make sure you are playing to your strengths and make sure you're also acknowledging where your weakness lies. So kind of quick overview steps to build alignment is to do a self-audit. So define your strengths, weaknesses, and your preferred activities. I really want you to start kind of creating your 2 to 3 tasks that you should immediately stop doing, because you should be kind of focusing and doubling down on your strengths, your zone of genius. And then for the team alignment, you also need to assess your team's archetypes and ensure coverage of all 3. Like, think about it. If there are 3 founders and all of them are visionary, there's no operator, there's no specialist, that is a recipe for disaster. That business is going to have a very hard time getting off the ground. Now, you also need to build trust within your team by clearly defining roles and responsibilities. Again, like I said, these are the 3 founder archetypes, but they also come in play when you're hiring your own team. When I'm hiring people, I'm always thinking about, well, am I hiring them for a specialist role? Am I hiring them for an operator? Of course, the visionary is always going to be me. I'm not letting go of that, because otherwise, what kind of future are we building if I outsource the vision? So you have to make sure you have coverage across the 3 different types. And then business alignment. If you are the specialist, focus on niche quality or premium services and charging the most that you can. And then for the operator, you have to be focusing on scalability and systemization. This is all about increasing profit margins while also increasing efficiency. For the visionary, you have to be focusing on disruption and future trends. And in the short term, visionaries may bleed, but in the long term, these people are going to create innovations that the world is going to just be moved by, amazed by. Now, here are some other things to keep in mind. Some pitfalls for misalignment might be a specialist who won't delegate or learn. So an example is an artist who tries to manage every detail of the business without having expertise. Like, they're not learning, they're not adapting, and they're still trying to do everything. This is going to lead to burnout and bottleneck, because they're trying to manage production, yet they're also trying to manage marketing and sales, and they only have a limited amount of time and energy every single day. So the lesson is, without delegation or proper knowledge of other domains, specialists can scale their unique contributions. A great example of an operator is going to be somebody who's stuck in execution. This is the number 1 key for misalignment. So a COO who is busy doing everything and forgets to manage the team. So he or she ends up overworking and not leveraging. The lesson has to be operators need to build and manage systems and teams first, then execute on some critical things if needed. Again, these are managers, not doers. And the visionary who is detached from reality. This is where another misalignment could be created. So a founder who's constantly pitching bold ideas, whether to the team or to the market, but neglects operational details, leading to team frustration. He's not only overextending himself, he's overextending the entire team and company. So the lesson here is visionaries must ground their ambitions in practical execution, and also please be kind and patient with your team, because I am a visionary. I get it. It's so hard. You want everything to be perfect and you want it done right now, or at least it should have been done yesterday. But these people are mere mortals. It's going to take some time for them to catch up. So apply patience, master your own emotions, be kind, be empathetic, and people will love you so much more. And the recap for specialists is focus on dedicating most of your energy to refining your craft, hand off operational and marketing/sales tasks if you cannot master that, or if it is hindering your ability to create the unique thing. The action step for you is to create a zone of genius list. So I want you to identify 3 to 5 tasks where your skills shine and delegate the rest. For the operator, the focus needs to be on building scalable systems and optimize resources well. Whether those resources are time, money, team members, you need to be allocating things properly, and you have to play well and partner with specialists and visionaries. The action step for the operator is to perform a time audit. Identify 20% of tasks that drive 80% of results and focus ruthlessly on those. And try to really create the perfect systems around that. You don't have to systemize every single thing, but systemize the things that really do matter first. For the visionary, my friend, you just need to define and communicate a clear, inspiring vision that the team can be aligned with. And you have to trust your specialists and your operators to create and manage. So the action step is going to be to create a 3-year vision. Where are we headed down 3 years from now? Because the 10-year, 20-year vision might be so far-fetched that the team just might not resonate with it. So let's kind of ground it in reality with a 3-year vision. Then you want to break it down into 1 year, 1 quarter, 1 month, share it with the team. And they're going to allow you to turn that vision into reality. And once you share it, give it to the operator, or if you are acting as the operator as well, awesome, no worries. Ensure that the operator gives it to the specialist down here. So again, throughout my journey, I had to kind of learn how to evolve. As a founder, I started off as a specialist, then I became an operator, and then I am now a visionary. And, I have this ability to kind of zoom in and zoom out as needed. I can be very detail oriented, but then I can also be big picture. And, that might be a trait that you have as well. So you have to really play to your strengths. But what I always like to do is stay as a visionary 80% of the time. That's what I aim for. Maybe 60% of the time is kind of the reality. And then I'm working as a specialist in certain things inside my business. So I am still in charge of marketing, overseeing the sales team. And those are things that I really love, and I want to keep doing that. But then I have given up and delegated operations, even though I am really good at it. But I'm like, well, I don't need to do it because other people can do it just as well. Even though it's kind of fun for me, I'm like, no, because if I just keep doing operations, who's going to do this, right? So that's where you have to kind of play that game delicately and know exactly what your strengths and weaknesses are. Anyways, I hope you got some value out of this. Drop a comment below. I'm kind of curious to hear what type of archetype are you, whether you're the specialist, the operator, or the visionary. And if you've got other people in your team that are fulfilling the roles and obligations of the other roles. If you've enjoyed the video, please subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.